We are three here because we want to give everyone the opportunity to ask questions and we want to answer all of the questions. So before everything, just notice that at the bottom of this Zoom webinar, you have the Q&A section. This is your way of asking us any question that you may have, and we'll try to either talk and answer your question live, or we'll reply on the Q&A section that's below. Let's, I think, jump right into Beyond the Prompt. So I'm going to show for those of you who aren't familiar with the landing page that we have designed and made. This is the landing page for Beyond the Prompt. It's a major campaign. Like I said, what does it mean to be creative with AI? We know that a lot of people are scared of AI and aren't sure what AI can do. Or they're not happy with a creative output of AI, and it can see it really, really flat. But we claim, and this is our point of view, that, and we have made also a very cool video, of course, using LTX Studio. We believe that it's about you. It's about the creativity edge and your creative edge specifically that you need to bring when you try to use tools, technological tools, and specifically AI. So we have partnered with Forward Festival. This is clickable, so you can also see Forward Festival. It's a major creative festival in Berlin, bringing major people to the stage, and a huge opportunity to explore creativity and what is going on right now on creative realms. So we've partnered for them for the shortest AI film competition. The theme is anything goes. You just need to tell a good story and bring your own unique point of view and creative edge. So we want to see some explorative visuals. We want to see interesting ways of telling the story. The medium is the message with this. We do want to see a very short, precise, it's up to 1 minute. You can see here the length is up to 1 minute, 60 seconds. You need to be very precise with what you want to say. And it needs to be generated in LTX Studio. Now, you can bring other images or references. LTX Studio offers image to video capabilities. So you'll see that in a bit when Corbett shows how to use LTX Studio. So this is everything goes. The only thing we're asking you to do is to create some project that showcases the work that you've done and share it. And also Corbett will show you how you can share a project with our email, which is ltxstudio@lightricks.com. It's also in the submission guidelines. So you'll see the email over there. You don't have to write it down now. And you can team up with up to 2 other people per one film. There's 1 submission per team or per individual that you can submit. And then the winners, before we go to the winner, we'll talk about the timelines. You have almost 2 more weeks. This is us right now in the webinar, at the webinar. Sorry about that, I jumped. And the submissions end at 11:59 a.m. EST New York time, August 4th. That means you have around almost 2 weeks from now. We'll announce the winners on August 14, and then the winners will be flown and accommodated at Berlin to showcase their film at the shortest AI film festival in Forward Festival, during Forward Festival, with the Forward Festival audience that is coming. They'll also get 1 year subscription to LTX Studio for the Pro plan, each team member. And of course, they'll be screening their film at the film festival. And if that's not enough, you'll also win $5,000 for the entire team. These are the other prizes. We'll also have honorable mention and the amazing landing page you'll see here. is going to turn into a showcase page for the nicest submissions. So we'll also showcase you. If you haven't seen that already, we offer 50% off to all new and free users on the Pro plan. It has features like VO3 that we believe can assist you to create amazing outputs. And if you're already a user, you can either upgrade to Pro or use your existing tier plan and receive 90,000 compute seconds to use for this. Once you submit, you'll go to this Google form where you can see here, it also asks you to share the project with the LTX Studio. So please make sure to do that. And then this is, I think, the coolest part of this campaign. Forward Festival and our design partners around the world helped us ask a lot of amazing creators about their insights and how they see creativity and AI and where it meets. So this is super inspiring. I personally worked and read and edited all of those, and I think it's amazing content to just get inspiration from. So please take a look at that. This is the webinar we have now, and these are some inspirational tutorials, like fun, up to 1-2 minutes long tutorials to just give you some inspiration. I'm gonna stop sharing here. I'm gonna also paste the landing page's URL on the chat for everyone to be able to see. And I see we have a lot of Q&As here, so I'm going to start going through some competition questions, and we'll dive right into Corbett's demonstration of how to create this amazing award-winning entry of yours. So Corbett, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is exciting, and we have a lot of folks attending today. Some really good questions coming in already. I'm really excited to see everyone's eagerness to participate, and we'll do our job answering. We'll do as best we can answering the ones that are coming in. So that's why we have medics here to help answer them as we're going, and then Nevo for keeping an eye on the competition, questions and clarifications. My role today, I'm going to just try to show an overview of the platform and focusing specifically on areas that will be helpful for the competition. And one note about that is with so many people on the webinar, and when we also will be posting this, there's going to be a mixture of people that are experts and some that are very new. So we'll try to span the gap today between showing some basics of the platform and some overviews, as well as showing a few tips and tricks that are deeper. But please feel free to add more things in the chat. That's why we have 3 folks here, so we can span all the questions, because we want to make it as responsive as possible to the questions that pop up as you're thinking about the stories you want to make. So ultimately, as I share my screen, ultimately, it is worth saying, you'll find out when you go through making something, the process of making something like this and shipping something means you use the platform in a way that's deeper than when you're just playing around with it. So you'll encounter all the edge cases and the limitations, and we want to be here to respond. So try joining our Discord to collaborate with the community, to chat with us, but hopefully the webinar will clear up things today about the general basic parts of it. And before we dig into about the ideas, I do want to say, the 60-second film competition, it's a lot about brevity and expressing a good story in a short amount of time, and cutting things down so that it's really economical in how it uses your videos and assets. But nothing beats just a really good story itself. So spend some time playing around with what you're going to communicate. Personally, today, for example, I wanted to go through the whole process to make it as representative as possible to what you'll be doing. So I try to make a story idea. It is easier to show people that in context of a story you're making versus just demoing the platform. If you're completely stuck, you can ask ChatGPT for ideas. But honestly, I often get ideas in the generation process itself. So I'll walk you through one of them. Before we dig into that, I want to give a brief overview of the platform here. So you can see here on the main panel here, we have an image generation space, a motion generation space, this generating storyboard way where you can put in a script or some bullet points and generate a story through that. Or you can start with a blank storyboard, start from scratch and build it shot by shot. You can also train actors here. I'll spend a lot of time on the generation workspaces, generating images with Flux and generating motion with Google VO2 and 3 and our own model LTXV. And since this is a really constrained story, you'll probably end up using blank storyboard because if you create a full script, it'll give you so many shots and you really want to be precise and economical with your shot selection. But let me show you what it looks like when you're still getting like the art direction and your inspiration in the first place. So as you're going in, let's say you're generating some images. So we'll start here, and I really wanted to make something with this like 8-bit astronaut. And so when I was playing around with some story ideas first, I just started with some really basics around the art direction, like an 8-bit astronaut. And so here I just typed in a simple prompt, and you'll notice that on the bottom there's an image and video tab, so you can toggle between these. I'm getting a variety of shots here, and it's worth saying that I'll toggle between these. Let me drop a new. I'll drop a new tab here so we can look at some things side by side. Oops, I'll do app. So we'll look at some things side by side. So when you're going through the image generation space, it'll give you more variety. You're going straight through. Be a little bit more. Here, I'll type a story here. If you're creating from scratch, you can just type in a project name and do a few shot selections like your style, aspect ratio, style references, and click start. But this is the fastest way to drop in. But as we go through the generation space and art direction, if I were to type in a similar prompt like 8-bit astronaut, you're getting one storyboard here, and you can build them out again and again. But in the image generation space, you'll get a lot more variety. And so I'd actually encourage people to start around there. So it's a faster, more iterative way to get your ideas and kind of play around with your concepts. And so I usually only storyboard things once I have some concepts to go with. And so we'll start in this space before we talk about the storyboarding area. Once you generate a example image, you can do a lot of really fun things. So for example, I could obviously do another round. I could play around with different ones and I can say, hey, I want, more like this, and I can click that. You can also, which is my personal favorite thing and the most powerful thing, I think, is that you can use these images as a reference and say, give me more like this. So I can say, I could say, use this as a reference. So you can either drag and drop something like that. It's a really cool, like shout out to the product team for making something so fun and easy. Or you can click this button here and that uses that as a reference image. So I can say, hey, this shot, but let's like change the lighting, change the location, change the subject, add these things. This area really understands the photo, and so you can be very surgical. So I can say, for example, this, but make the sun purple. Or I could say, I'll do that, and then I'll do this, but make it so there are two astronauts. So this way, you can start really playing around with ideas, and it's a really fun way of getting like your art direction, getting inspired. And I think part of the process with AI is these happy accidents. So you have an idea, you start playing around with it, and then you are agile with this as your co-pilot to play around with it and get some inspiration back from your inputs. And that's where you're using your taste as a creator to understand like, is this closer or further away from my vision? I'll show a few more tips and tricks here on the image gen space, but Nevo or Medix, anything you want to jump in on before I do a few other things like video and style reference and stuff like that?
I've been answering questions.
Yeah.
I have to
Okay.
say, my ability to hear and write is minimal. I'm gonna try
Fair.
better, but I don't have any
No,
comments
no,
so far.
no pressure. So I'll keep skipping ahead. I just didn't want to do a monologue, but yeah, there are
For sure,
questions
for
just
sure. I'll
coming
try
in.
also to pop back in every
No,
once
no,
in a
you're good.
while.
I've been seeing them pop down, but feel free to interject if there's anything you want to show visually. But let me
Lovely.
just talk about my story. So Fun fact, like when I was playing around with this, I went on ChatGPT and I was thinking like, all right, what are some stories with an astronaut? And it didn't really give me anything that I really liked. But I started playing around with this and I found something that was kind of fun where I had a picture kind of like this, but I'll say this, but put a black hole in the background. And I was playing around with some different styles, and there was one that came out that had a black hole in the background. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have a short story where this 8-bit astronaut is out on a spacewalk, but his tether breaks, he gets sucked into a black hole, and then on the other side of the black hole, he turns into a photorealistic human astronaut. And I thought it'd just be like a really fun short story, not too much of a plot there, but just something to demo. And so I'll go through some of my image generations so you can see, and I'll walk through really my exact storyline. But so all the way up here, this is on the right is your kind of history of your generations. And so I can show you where I started. These are previous projects. This is where I started. And I saw some things and I was like, I kind of like this art direction. It'd be fun to make a story where this astronaut is on a spacewalk. Like I really like some of these. And let's say that the astronaut on a spacewalk is on this tether, but then the tether breaks and they get sucked into this black hole and they're turned into an alternate universe. So I started generating some things, getting some images, and one thing I want to really show is that it's really helpful from a story perspective to keep using and like daisy chaining your previous image reference to get the next shot. So I'll give you an example here. I did this. I said use this as the reference, so plopped it in here, and I said give me a shot where we can see this astronaut. Oops, but on the outside of this ship. So basically, you can keep taking each shot and say, and this happens next, and this happens next, and you can keep a really easy continuity there. And so if you can see, for my prompts, I said on the left here, you can see the prompts. Show me what the inside of the airlock would look like on this ship. So you can see, I was basically saying like, show me the astronaut inside, and I'd use that reference image, and I'd say, now show me this, show me that. So you can use that to kind of build out your story. And I built it out so the astronaut, floated around, and then I zoomed in on the rope and made the rope break, and then I had the astronaut slowly get sucked into this black hole. Sometimes you have to really push it, like it just wouldn't want to show this astronaut getting sucked into the black hole, and it even gave me like a not safe for work one. I don't know why, but then like eventually you push it, you can just try different prompts, and then once the astronauts got sucked in, I wanted to show different styles. So here's a really good way to give me to talk through that. You can obviously to change styles, you can just change it with your words. For example, you can change things like location, lighting, enhance with these things, shift the color palette. But you can also take something and say, like, you can describe your style. Like in here, I said, give me this astronaut, but in photorealistic style. I also want to point out though, like if you're just making an astronaut, like an astronaut, by default, it'll be cinematic, but you can choose some styles down here at the bottom that are kind of pre-trained and really fun. So these are some pre-trained one. Like if we want a vintage astronaut, you can do that and you'll get like a cool older look. You can also, these are more like, since they are kind of pre-trained, they're pretty reliable, but you can bring in any style reference and you can drop it in here. And so I can take anything at all. Like I actually really like these shots, but I can take anything at all, any image from the internet that you have the rights to, and drop it in here. You can also use royalty-free images, for example, royalty-free stock sites like Unsplash, and you can just drag and drop it in here. So the difference is when you're using style reference, it's using that as the context of what to generate. So I can say this, but remove the moon in the background. So you can kind of surgically change it when you're using the image reference here. You can use that to change your shot. And then for style reference, it's only pulling the colors and the style. It's not the it's really limiting it to just the like the actual style of the image. So here you can see we can even make some really precise changes like removing these moons here. So, okay, that's a little bit about how you can start with art direction, play around with different styles. Remember, you can pull in anything, like any royalty-free image, you can pull in and play around with many different styles and get inspiration. Once you have that, I actually like to storyboard these out. It really helps me just get a sense for my story and helps me understand what I'm going to do. As a quick note, and almost a word of caution, I wouldn't rely on the storyboard area to generate all your image or videos. And we'll come back to that. We'll show how you do video generation here. So for example, You have a lot of power here with changing the video models that you use, and we'll show you when and where to use them. But as a very quick preview, let's just say I wanted to do like Google VO2 and use this as the starting frame. I can drag and drop like that. I love that little animation, by the way. And I can just say, the astronaut walks slowly in the desert. So you can turn these into videos really easily. For example, with this button create video, it will drag it into that image reference section. And it's worth noting, though, real quick, that all of these settings, whether you're an image or video, they're all very sticky. So once I, for example, turn the audio off, like VO is one of the models that has audio by default, so sound effects of him walking. If I turn that off, every generation will be off from then on. Or if I change the time second setting or the aspect ratio, these will all stick. And so keep an eye on the settings because guarantee you some of you will generate lots of stuff and realize, oh, the sound was on and I didn't want it to be on or something. So we'll come back to video and talk about when and where to use the models. But for now, I want to show you what I do next in my process. Like, I'm starting to get some inspiration of what my story will be. So I like to storyboard it out. So we'll go back. Like I said, you can jump into here and you can give bullet points. You can say like, scene one, this happens. And you can bullet point it out or copy and paste something, a script here. And this will create a storyboard for you. But since we're doing a very constrained project, just 60 seconds, I would actually encourage people to start with the blank storyboard. So here, you can just give it a title. You can add characters, but you can do it later. We'll come into the section of characters and what this means and how to use them. But I'll go to, when I created my project, this like Cosmo or astronaut project, I just made a really simple storyboard, so I'll jump into that. I again started with this astronaut, in the spaceship, going on the spacewalk, seeing the nebula. The rope then feathers and it breaks. The astronaut gets pulled into the black hole, and then we have this dramatic scene where it shifts to realism, photorealism, and the astronaut comes back to the ship, and then will eventually, realize that he's in, the real world. So we're going to stitch all this together, but I just want to show you. Once you get your art direction, I honestly find it really helpful to map out all the pieces of the story so you can kind of keep it straight in your head. This will benefit you later because if you go over to the timeline section here up top, it will take your storyboard and make a default timeline. But note, it's worth turning all these into videos in the first place. One thing I do, even though it doesn't always work well, I just do it to see where, like a starting point. I click generate motion. So for example, when you add in one of these shots, I'll just do one here randomly. When I'm uploading a shot, I'll pick something here. I don't know if you can see my screen when I'm uploading, but when you drop in a shot, by default, it's a static image. And you can generate motion with one click here, but it won't be the best. I would play around with things in the motion generation workspace and then drag them into the timeline to get the videos you want, and we'll show that. But to recap, I would use the image gen space to kind of get your art direction, understand what you're going for, and get some inspiration, play around with it. And then as you start to coalesce into what your idea is, I would then pull it into this storyboard so you can kind of get an understanding of your project flow. Next, I'll show things like video generation and timeline. But yeah, I just want to pause to make sure if there's any questions that are relevant to highlight before we move on to the motion and timeline parts.
I saw some questions regarding consistency. I know we'll show those at the storyboard for both characters, locations, and everything. I just maybe want to pop back to the gen space, to our image generation space, to show how you can also use flux context for these. So once you have this astronaut that we have used for the image reference, you can see on the left side, you can just add any prompt, any textual prompt to mention what you want this character to do. Or how you want to change this. So it's also editing the same photo, but you can also use this photo as a reference to keep consistency. So if it's a location, you can put this image as a reference and use it to achieve consistency and to generate over and over some results for what you want. So you can, for For example, you can just upload an image for that looks like Mars and then just repeatedly use it to generate the same location. And you could do the same with characters, actors, and even objects. So if you upload an image instead of this astronaut on the left to the prompt
Mhm.
of, say, an object, of a person, then you can then later on mention in the prompt section how you want to use these as a consistent shot that you'll generate over and over using this reference. A small hack that we will also implement soon is that you can also stitch two images together. For instance, you can take
Great idea.
this one actor, like a person, as a reference, stitch it next to the location, and then describe what you want to achieve out of these two as references. So you can stitch a few different images, upload it as one reference to this prompt section, and then describe what you want to achieve out of it. And it will give you a lot of consistency capabilities. So this is another way you can achieve consistency in a lot of different from a lot of different perspectives: location, objects, people, etc. And Corbett will show in a bit how you can also achieve that in the
Yeah.
storyboard section.
Yeah, so th those are all great tips, and I'll recap something I just mentioned above about like me daisy chaining my shots together to get to there. But another tip, Nevo had a good one about like stitching two images together so you can get them as one reference image. But even if you are kind of shifting, like here you can see I started with I was playing around with art direction. I like this one, and so I said, give me this, but remove the moons, and it removed the moons. And I can, animate any shot I want. I can also say, give me this, but add a moon rover. So you can use the reference image to keep pushing the story further. Like if this astronaut walks up to the moon rover, I said, move them closer to it. And when you need to kind of break the narrative daisy chain of this, then this, then this, then this, you can still use style reference. So as an example, I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of this to show you an example. I could say like, if I just said, show me a deep hole in the desert sand, if I just said something like that, it will probably give me too broad of a variety. Like, do you see the big difference in the style? I can do some things like this, like change it to vintage, but it's still really missing what I would be going for. But here is where you can say like you can either use this and say like show me this landscape, but just a close up, oops, close up of a hole in the desert sand. You can still use the context reference image of your like universe and just change a lot of stuff about it. Or you could just say you could remove that and just use the style reference. So I can just drag and drop my style reference, which I took a screenshot of. So here, for example, I put my style reference there, and you can adjust the strength, and I can just say like, show me a flat desert landscape. So you can oops, I dropped it. Sorry, one second. There. Apply. So you can see the difference of like I can use my style reference to get something and just remove all the stuff or add stuff. You can really go crazy with the style reference or with the image reference, or you can just purely pull out the style. Like if you want to push the story in a different direction, but you still like the overall colors, etc. There's a lot of options here to kind of push and pull to get the direction you want. On a more practical basis, like I said above here, when I was first playing around with my little spaceman story, I started out with a really broad, some basic stuff. But once I figured out what I wanted to do, if you noticed how I prompt things, if you notice in the top or in the left here, I just say like, show me this, but now show the astronaut jumping out into space with a tether. That I said I used this and I said this, but make the tether white, and then made it this. And I said, show me the outside of this spaceship. So you can basically keep using an image reference. And then it will, by the way, as a quick hack, if you click use parameters, you can go back to a previous thing and it will just do the exact generation here. So you can see for this one, I said, show me the outside of this ship. Then I said, show me a close up. So I just was kind of using the context to push my story scene by scene. So that's one way to keep consistency. The other way to keep consistency will show is with training your actors, and making a mini model to get like a really specific actor if you want them in many different scenes and shots. But this is probably the quickest way to get like a narrative consistency when you're storyboarding out something. Cool.
Corbett, I had some questions about the stitching, so I think I might show an
Sure. Yeah, show
example
an
of what I
example. Yeah.
meant.
Yeah. It's kind of like making a
Um,
mood board, right? Like you can stitch together multiple things and upload it as one image, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see that over here, this is literally an image that I uploaded. I did a lot of references for Taken over here. But like this is, as you can see here, I hope you can see that. I literally just stitched together two images and uploaded it. So stitching is basically like copy and pasting into a grid. You can use it in good old Paint as well. If you're using Adobe Illustrator or any online softwares, you can also just stitch. And then this was for the video, but I meant for it to be hold on, let me find this image of the horse. One
Yeah, another good
second.
example, I could even show it on my screen too. Like you could take one actor, open up Keynote or PowerPoint, take another actor, just
Right.
copy and paste both people, and they won't look natural.
Oh,
But then
yeah.
just say, show me these folks, but in a coffee shop. And so like you really don't need to be that precise. I might even do that real quick while you're doing it, Nevo, just
Oh,
to.
yeah. I already stole it, but here you go. You can see this was
Yeah, there you
the
go.
reference image that I used. Then if I hop back into here, I edit document examples. I have my horses here that I stitched. This is, you can do, like Corbett said, you can use Google Slides even to just paste it one next to the other and then download it, edit, open it. And then I just wrote in the image space, use the floral background for the horses skin.
Yeah.
So you just prompt what you want to achieve out of the image that you've inputted, and it will just create it. It will just understand what you want to achieve. And this is a very cool way of using stitching. You can see sometimes it gives you still the right side of the background, but you can remove it later and just use it.
Actually, and Navel, just to show a few examples, like use that as the reference image and say, show the horse on the left with the floral skin, but in a field, like in a meadow or something. So like it might take a few, but honestly,
Mhm.
it's not that hard. You once you get both things in the context window, you can just use that and it has it in its knowledge base, and you can kind of keep pushing it. And so it might take a few generations, but I've done that with like putting two characters in a certain scene, stuff like that. But again, if
Yeah,
you do heavy character work, I think you'll want to use the actors feature, which we'll get to. This is kind of, there you go. Yeah, worked.
yeah.
The
So
one
you just
is
need to
pretty good.
iterate over it and slowly
Yeah.
build it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Hey, let me go back to sharing 1 second. I also have so many tabs open. Okay, cool. All right, so going back, like that's a great one. Again, like as a quick hack to get two things in the context window, you can get kind of endless things. You can make like, look, I'll do. You could even take a screenshot, for example. This is super hacky, but watch this. Like, show me different characters in suits. I can just do this, and then I could take a screenshot of these six things and put it. That was not. This is not the best prompt, but you could take a screenshot of like many things and drop that into the context window, and now all those things are loaded into the context window. So as Nevo said, you can like stitch these. Like I've never tried this, but let's see. Let's just do a screenshot of these two and say like show me this astronaut and his rover next to a hole in oops hole. in the sand. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but this is a quick way just to show that like you can kind of pull anything into the context window and you might need to push it a little bit, but you can get there pretty rapidly. And then I just kind of daisy chained one shot to the next. So look, now we've got the rover in his hole.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so like it's a really hacky way. Like I'd keep playing with it. I would do like this, and I'd say, you can just change whatever you want. I could say turn this into a sunset in the background or whatever. You can keep playing with it and pushing it, and I just that's what I use to get kind of my story from spot to spot. So now that we have it, if I go back to our project, we have our Cosmo project. One quick note, by the way, is you notice the title scene thing I did here. That's very easy. If you want a quick title scene, you can just take anything. Let's just say the story is about this like ever expanding hole in the desert that this astronaut stumbles upon. Like the astronaut lands and this hole just keeps expanding and collapsing the whole Earth. We can just take something and say, use that as a reference and say, turn this into a movie poster with the words desert. I'll say the desert. Uh, Over top. You can just play around with it and generate a few examples. And you can make a title scene really easily. Play around with the text. You can even say make the text look like sand or whatever. And you can also use that to quickly generate the title graphics. So I could drop this in here and say make the text blow away as if it were sand. So here, if I do that, now I can make a really quick like title sequence. So as a really quick hack, if you want to make like an end credit or opening credits, what I like to do is I go through all my generations and I find something that I think is visually appealing. Like I go through my little astronaut thing and I find an image that I really like the aesthetics of, like this one, and then I might say, okay, cool, give me this, and then add the text Cosmo as a title scene. And so it's really easy to get text, whether you're making an advertisement, a title sequence, it's really easy to get text. And then here we have like the desert. That's not my favorite animation, but that was just the first try. Now we'll start to switch into when and how to use video models because I want to show you that. And then we'll get into timeline to like actually creating your story. So we've shown you like the image generation and the ability to like make text and use context to get different shots. But once you want to go to making movies, like I said, the animation, I always do generate the start. I always do click, generate motion on the storyboard just to see the quick timeline. So when I make my storyboard, I'm gonna zoom out real quick. I dropped all these things in here just frame by frame. It's pretty easy. Like I said, you can just click this, click upload, and upload any shot. I'm gonna delete this, but you can see I just made that. Now I dropped it in there. I'm gonna delete this. But once you have your story, I go through and I click, generate motion just because I want to see where it's heading to. And then what I like to do also is go into timeline because I like to see what ones did well by default and which ones I have to spend a lot of time on. So when I go into timeline, you'll see all of your storyboard videos and images like mapped out in a sequence. Again, I have not edited these yet, so we will do that together. But you can drop in a quick soundtrack. So I might type in something like, space exploration or something, or sci-fi, and you can get some fun sounds. Let me see if I shared this with sound. You guys might need to tell me if this will show up. Can you hear that? Okay, cool. So you can get some soundtracks here as well as sound effects. So we had that like rope breaking. Let's type in like rope snapping or something like this. And so you can both get like soundtracks and effects here. I can just say like snap.
I think we just heard like what your microphone heard. Maybe you're not sharing the screen
Let me
well.
reshare the sound 1 second. Share this, share sound. Now you'll be able to hear it. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Going back. Okay. So going back to soundtrack, I typed in like soundtrack, space exploration, and we'll get like a sound like this. Or maybe you want something more exciting. You can just type in keywords and get whatever you want. So I just typed in some keywords around like sci-fi and got this. and I dropped it in here. By default, when you insert it, this playhead here that you see me dragging, whenever you drop in a sound, it'll go to where the playhead is going. And so keep an eye on that. But now you can have up to 5 audio layers and dual video layers, so you can really layer your concepts. Again, I haven't done any editing, and so we'll do it together. But I like to see where I'm at. I generate all the defaults in the storyboard and just let it play just to see which ones I have to fix. So we'll do that real quick. Title sequence default was kind of fun. I like the space long. I like the loading space, the pixel bar. That's pretty cool. So like it's without too much effort, it's already all like of course it's a black hole. Okay, so let's pause here. So it makes the stars look like snow. Rope isn't moving. So let's fix this one together. So I'm gonna go back to, I like the rest of them so far, but I'm gonna go back to this like rope breaking scene. Okay. And then I think I generated it up here. Give me a second. It's way up here. So these scenes right here where the rope was supposed to snap. What I do is let's get into like this one as an example. If this shot is going to show this rope snapping, what I do is I drag this into the video reference image. Remember the everything's sticky, so it still has the add the text from when we did the title scene. Everything's sticky, so make sure the settings are correct. We'll test actually the audio on so you can see what the sound effects will look like. And we'll use VO, which has default sound. And so I'll say the rope, phrase, and snaps. So VO is one of the models where there is audio. You can have audio built in by default. Oh, by the way, I like our little title sequence. That was cool. The Cosmo title sequence. That's pretty cool. But
Very
then
cute.
yeah, right. That was just a one shot. But let's play around with the other models, because what we've done at Lightrix is we've made these LTX models for incredibly fast iteration. So here we've been letting the VO thing play for a while, but if you want to test around with different motion types, I always use the LTX V models because they're so fast and you can get many different types of motion previews really quickly. You'll notice VO only gave me one result, and you have to wait a while. Like we started that much before, but it's only finishing at the same time these other ones are finishing. So the LTXV models are both faster. You can test different motion styles really quickly, and they're less computationally expensive. And so the turbo one, for example, is incredibly fast, and it is low cost for your compute power. VO, it's a higher cost for compute power. So you might use it for something like that title sequence. But honestly, first I play around with different things, different keywords to figure out like how do I want the rope to snap in the first place. Like this looks pretty cool. This is from VO, but is that how I want it to look? Or do I want it spinning around in gravity? So what I like to do is use LTXV to play around with different things, and then you can use other models when you're kind of more sure of the direction you want to go. But we'll show one thing, which is if you get a result you like from the rope snapping, like this one isn't that great. These are too static, it snaps a little bit, but let's say we want to go with this one up here. It's okay. You could download it here, but everything you generate is in your timeline. So if we go back to our project, Cosmo, and we go to timeline, if I go to insert something, like I'm going to find where the rope breaks, it's over here. Yeah, over here. So let's say I want to replace like this one, because remember this the stars were playing kind of in a weird way. Here. So I want to change this one. I can delete here. I could also open this in Motion Editor and keep playing around with it. So I can edit still in there. You have your options here. But again, I think I like the motion space. It works a little better. So you can still do things like create end frames. You can edit things. Like I could even go here and remove things. Like I could say, hey, I'm going to copy this end frame, and I'm going to use this tool and remove some objects. And I'm going to say, like, remove this part of the rope or something. That was let's see. I have to. So you can use tools. I don't know if that'll work that well, but you can use tools to edit things. Or I could do a generative fill and like make this a black hole, for example. Yeah, it didn't work too well. But I could do this, for example, and say a dark black spot in the star. So you can use some tools to like edit the image. For example, you have all the same tools, but I prefer the motion workspace because it's just faster. You get faster results. Somebody click cancel. But let's go in our timeline area here. All the videos we created are here to the left. So if you see me click all, I can access anything. And I'm going to go and swap out the video we made, this one. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to add in our recent fraying one. So it'll go where the playhead is. So I'm going to put the playhead here. And if you notice, when you hold your mouse over to the left side, the videos will autoplay. So for example, these you can see which one was which. Like you might not remember. So I just go like this and see, oh, which was the one that frayed that I really liked. So it was this one. So I'm going to click that one where it starts to fray and break. And I'm going to add that in. I'm going to click that and click insert. So now it's here. You notice there's dual tracks. You can pull this down here. It's slightly too long, but there's dual tracks, so you can have like 5 audio layers, 2 video layers. You can really do a lot. And what I like to do often is kind of zoom in and see like where is the audio changing. Like you notice here, the audio changes a little bit, and so I might make the scene line up with that, and tweak my timeline. So you have all these really fun tools where you can kind of tweak your timeline to match up with the music. So play around with that. And sometimes you might even want to have some like black space, like when my astronaut becomes real, maybe I want to add some black space just to make it more dramatic, like here. So you can kind of see where the music is and use the audio tools to match up your music with that. So going back towards it, we're trying to zoom through a lot of things in time here. But to recap what we have so far before we pause for some questions, what you have at your fingertips for this competition is a generative workspace where you can create tons of assets, kind of bring them into a narrative style, bring any inspiration in that you want. And like Naveau and I just showed, you can grab multiple references, pull them in, and do whatever you want with them. So you have a super powerful image workspace. You can take anything and create a motion out of it, and you can drag that motion into the timeline. But don't forget, I really think it is clarifying to build out your storyboard because it's very clarifying to have it kind of mapped out in your head. The last thing I'd say though about the storyboard and timeline, you can sync them, but a few tips to be aware of. If you change something, like if I change a clip, you'll notice that there will be like an orange dot. Let me just change one real quick so you can see. I'm just going to regenerate this. Well, I kind of like some of these. This one. I mean, you can always revert. So I'm going to regenerate this one and then we'll revert it later. But if you notice here, it says in this orange dot, it says it's not synced, for example. I can update this clip to mirror the new one I just made. So you can sync, you can update recent changes. But honestly, once I'm in the timeline, I work out of there as like the final product because sometimes if you try to sync them together, it might pull in stuff from your more static storyboard. So I would use the timeline as your like final editor. So it's kind of following the normal production process. You're getting like your story idea and your art direction. You're playing around with characters and in motion design. Then you storyboard out your story once you have that art direction and your idea, and then you kind of go into the editing and like sound design and stuff like that. So think about it like a production process. And speaking of that process, you can share this project with your collaborators. So you can share it here, and that's where you actually share it with us to submit it. And you can package up all these things if you do want to edit it outside of this. But for the competition, you have to use LTX Studio for all of your work. Like I said,
you can do post-production and share it. Like we just wanna, you can definitely do post-production. We allow that. We allow external editing if you need that. We had a few questions about bringing new assets when you post-produce and edit. So bringing assets that you haven't generated within LTX Studio is not allowed. You can bring some things that like image to text. You can bring images that you'll use LTX Studio to animate and then use for your editing. or like interpolate some images using LTX Studio and stuff, and then use it in the post editing. But we do want to see a main project bringing together some of the assets, even if you had mostly done like images that we don't see, or you've done most of the assets you've made in the motion editor or the image editor, like the spaces that Corbett showed earlier, that you just make specific assets. We ask you to open a storyboard project and upload some of the images for us to make sure that you have made those in LTX Studio and then share it with us. This is our way of understanding that you have made it using LTX Studio. So,
And I just saw a question come in about like video models and like and the cost of them. It's not just speed, but cost. There's one other note I'll say about the video model. So we didn't talk about VO3 yet. You'll notice here, for example, with LTXV, I can do a start and end frame. So for example, like let's just go here real quick. So here I have I can use this as my start frame. I'm going to make an end frame really quickly. I'm going to say close up of this astronaut's helmet. So I can, use the reference image, make an end frame, and then when I'm in video, if I'm using LTXV, you can do start to end frames. You have a lot of power and control. So for example, now I can drag this in and I have my end frames. And I can say, hey, make me a video to transition here. I want to point out when you're using VO2, you have one image and you can use text. So it's like you have text and image reference. But when you're using VO3, you don't have that control here. And so, these models are updating all the time. We're updating our platform every week. I'm sure soon these newest models will have more control, power, and preferences like reference images. But where I'd use VO3, for example, is, for example, where I did use it in my project is when my astronaut became real up here, and I wanted like a photorealistic version of just deep space. I could use VO3 for that. Like, let's say that the astronaut became real and is now just floating in space. Um, and I just wanted like some B-roll. I used VO3 for just like some space B-roll because I didn't need an image reference. It was photorealistic. I'd use it for that, but for the control alone, I would use the other models because like it's just going to save you so much time and headache because the consistency is like so hard to manage. But VO3 is amazing at like some B-roll shots that are like complex and stuff like that. So that's a good one.
Corbett, maybe we had a lot of questions about consistency. Maybe we can hop back into the storyboard and show how we use character consistency and
Sure.
actors,
Yeah.
just to keep the like different. If you have multiple characters,
Hmm.
maybe flux context and the grid system that we showed you with the stitching won't do because it's too many people and too many characters. And for this, we have actually made our own feature to train AI actors. So maybe we'll just dive into that for a second,
Sure.
and then maybe Corbett, you can also show how to do consistent location in the
Yes.
storyboard as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's start with the actors. Like I said, the for locations, I find it easy to just like daisy chain it from one shot to the next with Flux. Because you can say like, hey, show me this, but with alternate views of this inside interior. So that's a really quick way of getting both character and scene consistency. But for more complex narratives, or if you just are playing around with a lot of different scenes, like Nevo said, you can screenshot them together, and that's how you inject them into the Flux context. But this is pretty cool. We've built this. These are LoRa trained models, basically like very easy ways of fine tuning the main model to so that when you're tagging a character, this kind of like fine tune takes over. And the first off is you should kind of pay attention to what mode you're in because the quick draft is not that. The pro actor is where you have that good consistency. Your characters are saved globally. So, for example, all these characters, I might have made them for previous projects, but you can pull them into other projects, which is really cool. It's actually a huge benefit. And then when you create an actor, this does take time. So I want to call out this will take like 3 to 5 minutes to render. But basically, you can use them to describe the appearance or upload photos, and then you'll get these actors together. These are characters I've made, including, baby Corbett down here. Yes. Fun fact though, it's hard to make like really good characters with old images because it's too grainy, so it doesn't look quite real. That's a random note. But you can use that and like use things to upscale it, etc. But I've actually been using the describe appearance one a lot. Previously, you can just upload photos and just drag and drop them here and name it, but you can also use descriptions. So some of the things I've done is I've just made I've used ChatGPT for like a description of an astronaut, for example. I drop it in here. This is not me trying hard. I just want to show how it works. But I can say like, give me an astronaut, um, uh, with blonde hair. Yeah, I'll say like short, short blonde hair. You can just describe. Honestly, I've used ChatGPT just to get like the quick images. But what I want to say is that it'll make like a draft first, and this is the preview. So this is not like the final. But the reason you have this is that actually training this model, like training the LoRa, is like a 3 to 5 minute computationally expensive process. And so you'll want to make sure that the draft or like the draft character is correct. And then you can train the consistent character. Once you have the character, you can still put them into actually like this. But look how much more real people look when you do this. Like the problem with the default AI characters is that they look just kind of like uncanny and not like real people. But like this looks pretty real. I actually really like this result. And so I would probably use that as my character. I actually really love this one. And so if I like that, I can say, cool, like create this actor. And remember, first now we have the astronaut. I can take her and I can make uh I could put her in different like outfits for different scenes. Like you're not locked in there. Like the character is really versatile. And so like here I made this like detective and you can put them in different scenes and stuff. So when you're making that, you can it's running in the background now, but I want to call out like do the draft first, make sure that that's looking good. I usually put a lot more time into the prompts than that, but that turned out really well. Happy accident there. And then when you have that, you can tag your character here. So I'm not, I didn't, the character's not created yet, but I can tag like at, and I can tag my character here. So we'll make a really quick draft character just to show you this is not going to be good, but I'll say Maggie, an astronaut with short blonde hair. Oops. Um, so again, not trying it all here. I just want to show you so I can tag someone. The pro actor will take minutes to draft. This will be very quick, but honestly, I don't think quite as good. They'll do a lot of heavy lifting with the prompts. They'll enhance it by default, but you can control that, delete it, and push it in whatever direction you want. That's just kind of like an autofill to help you. But when I create this character, I can then start tagging them in all of my storyboard pieces. So that's how you can bring in a character kind of in any setting.
We also had a question about can the actor be not human? So the answer is unofficially yes. It can be. It works better with some weird creatures and like lively characters, which aren't objects. For objects, I would prefer maybe using flux context, like we showed before, with stitching capabilities and the other hacks that you have. But you can create non-human characters, again, unofficially in here.
So I made this character again, not to try very hard, but oops, sorry. But like I said, it's still training my actor that I had made before, but I just had a realization I can just use characters from past ones. So you can basically say, I'm just using Maggie because it's the default placeholder in each of the names. But you can basically create the character from all of your past generations too. So I can, take, Bella here or Jim or whatever. And so once you do that, then the character will be in this list here. So now you have the character, and then when you go to tag them in the bottom, if you do the app prompt, you notice that it pops up here. So now I have the character. So basically, I didn't put even like a setting and style in here. So this project literally has no concept of where this character is supposed to be. So if I wanted to put them in the right context, I would say the location is, inside of an airlock of a spaceship. I would talk about all these things, but that since I didn't do that, it just has Maggie here by herself because she's not in the space lock because I didn't give them that. Remember, I'm building this frame by frame, so I didn't actually say that. So if I put the location as inside of an airlock of a spaceship, and I would also change Maggie's clothing in the characters thing to be in the astronaut gear because here, she's not in that. It says clothing is a fitted white crew neck, so I'd say astronaut gear. This is very lazy prompting on my part. So these are global settings. So, oops, did I save it? Nope, I did not.
But you can also change the clothing within the actual, like the scene. You can change
Mhm.
the clothing from scene to
Correct.
scene if you want.
Yeah. But I just want to point out those things. If you're struggling to get a result in the storyboard, note that it's probably a scene setting or global setting that's inhibiting you. So it's probably that like if the scene says that you're inside of a courtroom and you're trying to get a shot on the street, that you actually have a hard time doing that. So pay attention to both the global settings up here, so the style setting, the cast, all that stuff, and then pay attention to the scene settings down here when you're in the storyboard. And then, like I said, once you're kind of getting towards the point where you like your storyboard and you're getting into motion design, that's where I kind of switch over to the timeline. You can still
We
add a new scene and push that to the timeline. But when you do that, there needs to be videos there for it to push. If I click, send to timeline, it won't send static images from what I can remember.
I don't know if you mentioned, but you can see that you can change the clothing at the same place over here at the left, like we said
Yes, right
before, and
here.
the style as well.
Yeah.
A question we had from Ira is about, do you have a specific prompt in syntax and grammar? The answer is no. If you feel like you're not getting accurate results for your prompt, I would really advise using any LLM bot, any chat bot from ChatGPT to Claude, and just state the specific model that you're trying to generate with. So if it's a motion prompt and you're choosing view 2, for instance, you can state, give me, like, enhance this prompt for view 3, or enhance
Yeah.
this
Well,
prompt for flux. And then it will help you with the syntax and grammar that you need to achieve, like, for a good, accurate result. We also, of course, have like our back-end prompt enhancement methods, but if you still feel like it's not accurate enough, then it's a good method.
I will also say that it also works for like reverse engineering of shots or anything that you have. For example, upload an image to your favorite chatbot and describe that image in a way that another image generation AI can create it,
mhm.
and it will give you the instructions that you can just copy paste. It won't be one to one, just like the one that you uploaded, but it will help you reverse engineer and get like the general idea of what you want.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. We've been hopping around trying to show as much as we can in this hour. And I think we're showing the different strengths of the different parts of the platform. Again, like I use storyboarding not for this image generation and stuff, but more for like organizing my thoughts on the story. And again, it's not wasted time because if you built out a new scene, you can send that scene to the storyboard or to the timeline, but it'll only send the videos from what I remember. That's why I just do the quick like generation just to have like a default. But again, please play around in the image and gen workspaces, like the motion workspace, etc. When you actually have um, motion that you want to get. You might remember, I forgot about this. Remember, if I use these parameters again, I'm clicking that button. Remember, we did this one. Oops. The zoom in here on the astronaut. It's pretty good actually, without too much prompting. We got a good zoom in shot there. That was like zero effort at all. So hopefully, we're trying to go through here quickly, but you can see like LTXV for example, with the ability to do these like you flux for one image, flux for the end image, and then animate between. You can get really good results without trying too hard. So it's worth calling out. All right. Let's see. I think we've covered most of it. let's see, the practical tips again. As a reminder, you share your submission up here. Oops, sorry. Going back, you share your submission in the storyboard. Let me go back one second. Here, so it's in the storyboard as you're sharing the project. The image generation space is global, so it's all your projects basically. So share the final project with us then. Anything else we should cover, Medix or Nevo, about like
Yeah. Nothing else. I'm just seeing a few of the questions. So if anyone, we're about to finish. So if anyone has some more questions, please write them down now. Gabriel, as for intellectual property rights, we are a platform for creating things. So it's nice because everything that you create is yours. We don't own it. It's like using Adobe Suite, and then you create something, it's yours. But for instance, if you create the Superman's logo on Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, then then use it, then they can sue you, DC. So
yeah.
We don't take any responsibility for intellectual property rights if you use something from copyright written domains. If it's public domain, you can definitely use it. Claudia, as for your question about working with LTX Studio and editing in a different software, the submission form that we have, you need to upload the final result. So the project isn't your actual final output. It's just a way for us to see that you've used LTX Studio to create the assets and your story. This is why we ask you to share it with us. But then you need to download the actual video from LTX Studio, from the editing software that you choose to work with, and upload it in the submission form that you can find on the official Beyond the Prompt landing page that we showed earlier, and we also shared it in this chat. I will make sure to paste it again so that everyone has it if you arrived later. Exporting project, Corbett just showed you have the share button. You can share it with your collaborators, and you can also share it as an XML file to continue on editing. An XML file, even if you don't work with DaVinci or Premiere Pro, which import XML files, this just downloads a package of the entire assets. So it also gives you the audio assets that you've used or generated or just used from our library, and all of the separate shots and images. So you can also use that. You can export this package, and you can also, of course, export the MP4 video final output. Corbett is now showing like the timeline where you can edit if you don't use any external editing software.
Yeah. And also, we got one quick question about taking stuff from the generation spaces into the timeline or storyboard. Real quick, remember these we just made the transitions. So I just made these videos where it zooms in on their helmet. If you want to put that into the timeline, just take the playhead wherever you want it. You click insert, so you can move things from that generation space to the from the generation space to the timeline. So that's how you get the videos there. And then from the images, the way I was doing that on Storyboard, honestly, I was just downloading them and clicking upload. So I was just clicking upload and uploading a shot. I'm not sure if you can see my computer screen when I do that, but I was just clicking upload and I was uploading it from my desktop. So basically, I was going to the image gen space, making images, and then just clicking this button here to download them. We'll make it even smoother over time to go between the different parts of the platform. But for me, I just download them to my desktop and then drop them in on the storyboard for the statics. And then for the videos, you do that in the timeline. You can drag any video you've generated from the video space, and then drop that into the timeline or static, I guess. You do statics too.
And I see we still have some questions about the submission. So let me just show it real quick.
Sure. Do you want to? I'll stop sharing.
I can take over even.
Yeah.
So over here at the landing page for Beyond the Prompt that I just shared also in the chat, if you go to the competition info, or actually just join the competition on the right here, you can just jump right into this page. When you are ready to submit, this is where you submit your video. You enter this and then you get into this Google form. So you fill out your details for your name and contact info so we can reach out if you win, when you win. And then you just upload your video here and submit. If you're a team member, you'll have to also fill out your other teammates' details, but you just need to upload your file. And also, and this is what we are showing here, I confirm that I've shared my project with LTX Studio at lightrix.com. So you copy that, go back to your project, say this is my amazing submission for LTX Studios Beyond the Prompt competition. I share this project with LTX Studio at lightrix.com. As a viewer, I invite this email. You can see it's become a viewer. And then we can see that you've actually used LTX Studio to make this project. So for submitting, you need to both share your project and submit the final video using this form that can be found at the landing page at the Beyond the Prompt landing page over here.
We got a few more questions too. It's fun. We really appreciate all the questions and interest. We're doing our best to answer them. I can share a few quick things. So going back to this project, I got one note about dialogue. Again, my story is getting a little bit hectic because I lost the plot towards the end because I'm just dropping in random things. But if you notice here, when there is characters, you can do character dialogue. There's no face detected here, but here there is. So I clicked dialogue, and you can add dialogue. That's one way. There's many ways to do sounds. I think my favorite way to do sounds though is the timeline. Honestly, a lot of people will record their own voiceovers and use that to pull in the audio. So, for example, we went here. You can upload a sound file, and so that could be a sound effect, a narration, etc. And again, like I have from an old project, I had this big explosion thing here, boom, or whatever, or maybe if I want the rope snapping, you can drop these in as separate audio layers. Again, my project is starting to lose coherence, but you have this sound explosion down here, so you can play multiple things. So you could have a backing track, etc. And then we do have voiceover options here too. So each of your characters, you can select their voice in that cast and characters thing. So hopefully, I marked that I'd answer this part live, but you can do it on the storyboard. You can do a lot of stuff with audio in the timeline. I've been using the timeline, honestly, mostly.
We're asked about the version of LTX Studio we're using here. This is the updated version. We don't offer versions. It's an online.
The question is more which plan this represents. I think this is the Pro tier.
This is Pro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The Pro tier has the VO3 video generation capability, adjustability as a feature. You can use VO3 only at Pro, just because it costs a lot. I also gave that as a tip. Maybe you didn't read other answers, which makes sense. We have about 80 and more of those. But I have a specific tip for using like the generated video for generating videos. I think you should start by using LTXV Turbo just to see the direction. And if you are happy with just the overall asset, how it looks like, the action the motion, the setup, just as like a draft, and then use VO2, 3 to generate the final result, just because it's really expensive. So please take that under consideration. The standard tier and above have all of the other features. Actors Pro, for instance, is only available if you are standard, if you only have the standard plan or above. So free and light tiers do not have Actors Pro, the ability to cast actors using our LoRa technology.
And then,
Who are you?
I was just playing around while Navo was talking, but someone was asking about you haven't shown how you can make characters speak. But like I said, you can do it in kind of the storyboard, but I've just been often dropping in narration. I was showing this quick example where I dropped in narration this way. You basically just generate a clip and then you notice the who are you, I just dropped in right here. So that's easiest when there's not lip syncing, but you can do lip sync. There's a lip sync option. But honestly, for my quick tip is for these short stories, I feel like it works best when it's like narration or you can choose a shot selection so that it's voiced over, over the shoulder or something. I find that best to keep the narrative feel. But yeah, you can do lip syncing as well. And yeah, I think with everything I showed you, honestly, I'm in the pro version. You'd still be able to do everything I showed you with the pro amount of compute credits. But yeah, you'd want to be, as Nevo said, you'd be more conscious of how you use that here, and you can see your usage in sorry, one second. The manage account. I gave myself a hack and gave myself many, many computing credits because I'm cheating and I needed to show you guys lots of stuff. So I gave myself tons, but you can see your how much compute seconds you have left in that section there in the manage account part. And no, I will not give you 10 million credits. This was just for this demo. Okay, cool. I think we got a lot of these. It's been great having all the questions come in and the engagement. Is there anything else we should cover?
There was a question that you played the final result that we did, like with the Cosmo.
Yeah. Okay. One note on that. I actually will, I will do that. I'm gonna drop it in the Discord channel, and I'll even I'll drop that and I'll share like a screenshot of what the final like timeline and project looks like. But the reason I want to do that is you'd have to watch me do some boring work of, if you remember, I was just doing this to work on it with you together. The timeline doesn't have all of my shot selection in. I'll show you one example. We did the rope frame together, but I have lots of other shots that I generated that I'd want to swap in and out. It's pretty good by default. Again, this is no editing. I'll show you the first part with no editing. Like I would change that sound effect. Remember, sound effects are auto-generated with VO, and I didn't click off. So I would click. So I watch it until I find something that makes me mad, and then I fix it. And so this is the first part I would edit. So I would go into soundtracks, do a rope breaking, and I would regenerate that result with the audio off, and then drop this back in here. So then the rope would snap. I don't like how I would change the rope snap. These are defaults, I would change them. And I don't like the rope movement there. So I do editing things, so I'm not like happy with it. I don't want to share it till I fix it. But one good example is like here, where the character gets sucked into the black hole and then turns into the person. There's a zoom in and it turns into the person. I actually did spend a little bit of time before the call playing around with that. In the sorry, I can show you in two ways. Basically, in the motion setting, I was playing around with that transition, and I did get ones that I liked. And so I would drop those into the timeline. But I did a lot of motion just experiments with him, in the transition part. And so I was just trying to find something that like went from 8-bit to realistic. And so like I'd play around with the ones that wasn't happy with until I found something I liked, and then I'd use timeline to pull it in. And I'd want some like fun sound design, because I think that's kind of a climax, is when the character turns into the real person. So yeah, I'd find something I like, I'd add some good sound design, but I will touch this up, just a real simple one, and submit it as like my submission, and then you all can beat me and spend a little more time doing it and make it better.
And with this being said, I just want to give the smallest, most important tip for winning this competition. We're looking for a unique point of view. We're looking for a unique way of telling a story. Of course, a good story is strong if your story is interesting, but remember, this is a 1 minute long story. It's a very short way of saying something to the world and expressing yourself. It can be also not narrativey. It can be something that is a bit more artisty, but it does need to
Yep.
tell some story. And then what it means is that you have to show your unique point of view, your creative edge. This is what we're looking with this competition, a creative edge, because we're really trying to get AI into these dark places of examining how well it can perform and how you can use it to bring your voice and your uniqueness into this new technology growing world. So this is what we're looking for. Try to have some amazing assets, some amazing visuals, and try to get us to get to know you through these submissions.
For
Yeah, I
everybody.
lagged. I lagged
Yeah,
with
there you
my.
go.
Corbett would have been disqualified had he submitted this one because it's longer than a minute.
Very, very true. To be fair, what I would do, that's a great point. What I do, if you notice here, these were all default clips. They were all, like 5 seconds. It's boring. You want to change up the shot selection. So, for example, I'd make some shots shorter, some longer. Like, you want more variety in that. So, yes, this would have been disqualified. It's already like a minute almost 2 minutes. And so be really economical, use interesting shot selection. But as Nevo said, it's also about like your point of view. We'd love to see something experimental, something dark, something touching, anything. This was kind of just, hey, ChatGPT, give me a story that I can talk about during the webinar. But, I like it. Cool. I think we got it. Thank you, everyone, for the amazing attention and questions. Hopefully, we answered enough during it, and it'll be to be continued on the Discord channel, where you can still, pepper us all with questions, and we'll be here to answer them.